Hey, and welcome to the highlights of episode number 187 with Danielle Paige. Some of my favorite parts of this episode were when she tells us the difference between astrology and horoscopes. I also loved when she talks about the important information that you can get from reading your chart, and when she busts some astrology myths. But there is so much more wisdom and inspiration that you get in the full episode. So to listen to the full podcast and get all the info in the show notes, head on over to melissaambrosini.com/187 right now. Welcome, Danielle. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Can you tell us about your story and your spiritual awakening and how you got into astrology? Take us back to the start.
I always knew that I was intuitive, if I even was aware of that word, but I just kind of was in tune. I would sense things. But, other than that, I didn't really think anything of it because this was a long time ago. People weren't as open as they are now. And so I didn't even have it in my own consciousness. So I wasn't even aware, but I kind of would feel things and situations and kind of not exactly know how it would turn out, but I would just really read people's energy really well. But I kind of just left it at that, because what are you really supposed to do with it? And I didn't really know what that meant. So everything really changed for me when I turned 30. And that's a major turning point for everyone in their life. So if people are familiar with astrology or if they're new, it's something called your Saturn Return. When I turned 30, I went to France with my boyfriend. It was actually on my 30th birthday. And, we were there thinking I'm going to have a great time. And, I didn't think we were going to get engaged or anything because we weren't ready, but I really was happy to be there and everything was, going well that I thought. And basically he breaks up with me in France on my 30th birthday.
What?
So yes, it's like a movie, but it actually happened to me. And I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm going to have a good time. And so I guess you are too, because we're here together. So that's what happened. So it was a little awkward. We would talk about it and then moments we would forget about it and have fun. But basically when we came back, that's when we broke up. And I was living with him and it was his place. So I needed to move out. And at this point I was living in Boston and I was actually working at one of the top architecture firms in the world. So my background is in interior architecture and I have my master's in that. It's a great firm and the work I was doing was really prestigious, but I wasn't happy. So it didn't matter. And, I kept saying I need to help people, but I had no idea what that even meant. Okay. So basically I decided I took a huge leap of faith and I quit that job, which most people would have killed to work at that firm. And I moved back home to California. That's where I'm from. And I moved in with my parents at 30 years old. So this is when a lot of people were getting married. And here I was crying over a breakup, not understanding. And then also that's when the economy tanked, in the States, well, really everywhere, but really bad in the States. And that was 2009. And there were no design jobs. So now I have my master's. I could not find a design job to save my life. All my friends that were architects, everyone was moving at home. It was a really crazy time. But in hindsight, everything is perfectly planned out because I was supposed to go through this. So what happened is I was home, thankfully I had a place to go home to. And then a couple months into that, I started having dreams that really started telling me things that would happen during the day. And so then I would see them, they would happen during the day. And then I would think, okay, well, that's weird. I had a dream about that. Or am I losing my mind? Right? Am I, just making this up? And then it kept happening. And so that proceeded for a little while. And I'm like, okay, well, this is really interesting. There's something going on here. And at this point, I don't really know anything about a spiritual awakening, spiritual process. It's not my world. But this is what happened is I started waking up in the middle of the night and seeing spirits right in front of my face. So that was very, very scary. And I didn't sleep with the lights off for about 2 weeks. So I just kept it in for a little while. And then I started, my psychic ability started opening up and I started just getting information. It was very subtle, but it was almost like someone was dropping in information, through your mind. We all get it differently, but that's how it started. And so I was guided to start meditating and start connecting. And then in those meditations, I would start getting information. And so at that point, I started realizing, okay, there's something going on here and there's more than the physical realm that we just see. That was my first inkling that there was something beyond this veil, right? The physical realm. I had no idea before. And I'm like, this is really cool, right? Because I'm like, here, I feel like there was a piece that I've been looking for my whole life, that I knew there was something more, but I had no idea. It was as if someone gave me the key to a door that has been locked my whole life. And then around that time, I was working at this really, really horrible temp job, but I was just doing it to make some money while I was figuring things out. And I met someone there. He was the IT guy. We became friends and we went out to dinner one night. And this is the turning point. He introduced me to astrology. He's like, oh, I don't know. I just have a feeling you'd be into this. And I said, oh, I don't know anything about it. Could you show me? And so he showed me and he read my chart. And I said, well, that's pretty amazing that you can know stuff about me on a personal level and we don't really even know each other like that. So basically I went home that night, started Googling everything I could about astrology, and I basically never stopped. So from that point forward, I taught myself astrology. It just came back to me because it's a language that I've done before. My soul knew it. I just had to remember and go through the process, but my soul knew it. And, then I went on this journey of healing myself and clearing out old behavioral patterns and personas. So that is my journey. And that led me to here. And honestly, I couldn't be happier with the work I'm doing because it's my soul's calling. So I love it.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. For someone listening who may be thinking, what the heck is a birth chart? Can you tell us what a birth chart is and how you read them?
Absolutely. And that's a really good question because a lot of people won't know what this is. So basically, I take someone's birth date, their exact time from their birth certificate. That's really important. And their location of birth. And then I put it into a computer program. And what it does is it gives me a graph. And then I basically read the graph. So the graph is basically the snapshot of the moment in time you took your first breath here on Earth. So when you came out of the womb, right, and you took your first breath, and if someone was to look up at the stars, they can see the energetic imprint. The moon was somewhere, Venus was somewhere, Mars was somewhere. And so that birth chart is basically, in so many ways, embedded or coded into your cells. And so it shows me a lot about who you are, your behavioral patterns, your purpose in this lifetime, some past life energy that you brought in. And it's so much more. The most important thing to understand is that everything is energy. And there's stuff beyond us that we just can't even fathom and we can't even wrap our head around, because our mind is actually very limited, right? But everything is energy. So this is the energetic imprint that your soul chose to be born under to help you live out your karma and your dharma in this lifetime.
What is the difference between astrology and horoscopes? What's the difference there?
Yeah. So horoscopes they basically take your sun sign. And so sun sign is, I'm a Taurus. I was born May 12th. So my sun sign, is Taurus. They give you a general flavor. But the thing is, you have to look at someone's entire chart. So we have the sun sign in us, but that's just one small part. We have, Venus and the moon and Mars and Uranus and Neptune and so on. And we have to see how it's laid out on your chart or your graph, if you want to call it that. So, and it goes down to the time. So it's impossible to say, every Taurus, this is what's going to happen this month. Sure, there are themes, but I definitely can't be like, oh, every Taurus this month, you're going to fall in love, right? Or, every Aries, you're going to win $1 million. That's to me is like the stuff you read in magazines. And it's unfortunate because that has really tainted what people think of astrology. And again, what I do is I really read the language of your soul, and it's all about a universal archetype. So every planet is an archetype. Every sign is an archetype. And once you understand the archetype, you understand the rhythm of how it tends to play out.
So what is some other information that you get from these charts?
One of the first things I look at is the nodal axis. So there's something called the North Node and South Node. And that is so important because that really shows me specifically the energy that your soul brought in that you're really attached to, you're really used to doing. It's very natural for you.
Do you want to give an example of mine so people can understand?
Yeah. Okay. So you have your South Node in Libra. And so that means even though you're an Aries, you actually have a lot of Libra traits. So a Libra is very relationship oriented. They're very PC. And I'm not just saying this, but it's true. All Libras are beautiful. They just are. Like you'll never see a Libra that like is not into beauty in some form and doesn't take care of themselves because honestly, it's just connected to that vibration. So there is that energy there. And, Libra, the fact that you have a South Node in Libra shows, you came into this lifetime with having tendencies for being very relationship oriented. So sometimes that could mean, and it's subconscious, right? That you can sacrifice your own needs or your own desires to, keep the balance or keep the faith. Now, yours is a little different because you are an Aries sun. So I have to take that into account. So you don't have as much Libra as I would say someone else with the South Node. But the opposite that is the North Node, and yours is an Aries too. So not only are you an Aries sun, you're an Aries North Node. So the North Node shows me that one of your soul's purposes of why you incarnated and what you're really learning throughout life is truly about self and about your own power and about leadership and about being in your power and trusting your instinct. And that's also why your soul chose to be born as an Aries sun as well, because it doesn't happen all the time that your North Node is in the same sign as your sun sign. But when it does happen like that, it actually is a little gift from the universe saying, okay, we're already going to assist you with this. You already know how to do this a little bit, right? So it's not totally foreign to you. But the fact that you have both there, it's a strong emphasis on standing in your power, getting your message out, trusting yourself, and really knowing that, okay, I can be in a relationship, but I could also do my own thing. I could also be independent, right? But I have to really, really trust my instinct and not sacrifice anything for other people. And that could be romantic or friendship or family as well.
So can you bust some myths about astrology for us?
Yeah, well, the first one is, like we were saying before, is that horoscopes are astrology, because they're definitely not. Another myth is that your sun sign is the most important in your whole entire chart. And it's actually not. Your sun sign is very important, but you have so many other aspects and elements to your soul. The other thing is that everything is written in the stars. That's a really big one. So here's the thing. We have cycles and we have timing of events. That is the biggest thing I've seen from doing astrology for about 10 years now, is that yes, there are certain times when we're more open and we're ready to do something because a planet will come through basically and encourage us, and we feel the energy. But not everything is written in the stars, right? There are certain things that we can choose from it, just like I was saying before. So we have a lot of free will and there's a lot of wiggle room. So it's just about understanding, the vibration that your soul is moving towards.
So how does knowing all of this affect our health?
Medical and health astrology is something very specific, and I've actually been getting more into that lately. We can really understand so much more about ourselves and our health and how to move forward. So for example, if you look in the chart at someone's rising sign, and their rising sign is how they present themselves to the outside world. Okay. And if you look at the ruler of the rising sign, it tells a lot about someone's health. Now, it doesn't mean that, they're going to be sick or they're not sick. It just means that we have certain points in our body that we have to nourish and that we have to tend to, because if we're not nourishing it, it's more sensitive. Okay. Do you want me to talk about yours?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So again, I want to make this very clear. I'm not saying that this is a problem right now at all, or saying it's going to be, but it's just an area to nourish. So for you, it's actually all about the heart, and the head and the heart are very connected here. So it would be really, making sure that you're getting enough blood flow, making sure, you're taking supplements, throughout your life, because that's the one area that is just going to be sensitive for you.
So at the start of this call, you spoke about Saturn's return. And I'd love for you to explain to the listeners, what is Saturn's return?
So basically, Saturn is a planet in your birth chart that is connected to, it's a vibration that's connected to responsibility, discipline, structure, boundaries. And it's very connected to this earth plane, meaning it's stuff that we have to do on this earth plane. So it's connected to part of our karmic promise of what we came here to do and to step into. Okay. So when we turn, and this is for every single human on earth, because Saturn takes about 29 years to go around the entire, basically solar system, the entire zodiac, and it returns to the placement in your birth chart around 28 and a half, 29, 30. It's different for everyone because it's in a different placement for everyone, but it's between those ages. Okay. And so here's the thing. If someone doesn't believe in astrology, they don't need to, but I can guarantee around 28 and a half, maybe more 29 to 30, everyone starts feeling this energy. And we start feeling like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I need to really focus on what I need to do. Or maybe I need to stop partying so much. Or maybe I need to, I'm not happy in this marriage. I need to leave it. This is what I thought I wanted, but I'm not really happy and I can't stay here any longer. Or wait, I'm really ready to get married with this person. I'm in love, like, let's go. Or I'm ready to have a kid. Or I need to quit my job. I'm not happy. I need to move across the country, the world, whatever it is. Saturn comes in, and depending on where it is in your birth chart, it's really, you start to feel, because Saturn is basically in so many ways giving you hints of saying, okay, it's time for you to stop, change gears, really look at yourself, get real. And if you're not aligned with where Saturn is in your birth chart, the universe is going to take you and move you. What is not serving you and what's not aligned is going to be taken away or going to start shifting, because you're going to feel that it doesn't feel good anymore. So what Saturn does is it makes us get very real with ourselves and start looking at, what am I here to do? And that's why people around that age start really freaking out, and they start, oh my God, I don't know what to do, or I just broke up, or I'm, leaving this person or this job, right? We literally go through this crisis because that's Saturn. So again, when people say they don't believe it, that's fine, but I guarantee that's one cycle that they're going to feel. They just don't know Saturn's doing it, but that's what's happening.
What I'd love to ask you now is, how has knowing all of this changed and impacted your life?
Oh, everything. It's funny. I got into astrology in the beginning because I thought it was cool, and I used it to help myself understand myself better. And because my background in design, it just didn't look like it was happening. I'm like, okay, well, let me see, what am I good at? What are my gifts? What are my talents? Like, what is the makeup of my soul? So I actually got into it just to use it for myself first. I had no intention of doing this for other people. And then once I started realizing and learning so much about myself through the chart, I said, oh my gosh, I have to do this for other people. I have to help them. But it's been everything. It's really brought me in alignment with my soul. I see very clearly that spiritual teaching and moving in that direction is my purpose here in life. And it's my karma and it's my dharma, and I must fulfill that. I also see, relationships. It's been helping me understand, how I relate. This was really eye-opening. So I have something in my birth chart. For anyone that's advanced, it's Venus opposing Neptune. Okay. And so that is this really beautiful form of like a higher level love. It's soul love. It's really beautiful. It's romantic. It's very poetic. And so that's the higher octave of it. Okay. That's really about this, spiritual work through love. Okay. That's the higher octave. But my whole life, especially before I discovered astrology, I was not using it like that way. The shadow side of that is about really seeing people, seeing their highest potential, but ignoring all the flags, right? It's like, because I could see into people's soul, I was basically picking guys all through my life that needed to be rescued. And so what I would do is basically rescue them, heal them. It's like basically sew them back up and put them back together. And then all of a sudden we would break up, and I'm like, wait, oh my God. And then they would go off and get married, right? So I didn't even know I was doing that because I was seeing their potential, but again, ignoring what was in front of me. I'm like, oh, I know that they're just like broke and on drugs right now, but like, he's such a good person. He has a good soul. He's going to get through this. And here's the thing. They might, but we also need to respect ourselves enough to know that if that's not in alignment with what we desire right now, we should not be waiting around for that. And so that changed everything for me. Once I saw and understood that aspect of my chart, it was like a light bulb went off, and I said, oh my gosh, I've been rescuing men. I said, no more. I need to do this for a living. I'm really good at transforming people. Like, that's my gift. So that to me was absolutely life changing. And now whenever I have a moment of seeing someone and they're not really showing up, or it's like I might see it through this fantasy lens, I stop myself and be like, okay, is this Neptunian? Because that's what I call it for myself. And then I stop and I readjust and I move in the right direction because, I'll always have that energy there because it's part of me, but the higher octave of it is actually using it to heal people.